Light, Mind, Flash, J-Doll, easy play, anytime, stop, nada, much. Slayer Boxer, C, Bisu, Savior, 16 of the most powerful StarCraft gamers in the world. LG, Intel Centrino, GOM TV, Star Invitational.
패러다임을 만드는 16일의 정상급 파이터 총사령관 송병구, 황전사 변형태, 스나이퍼 진영수, 레제 윤용태.
Welcome back to the GOM TV StarCraft Invitational. This is Nick Tasteless Plot, broadcasting to you from Seoul, Korea. Down in the Techno Mart, it's been a very successful tournament so far. This is the third day of the event. It means we're in Group C right now. And I have to say this event has turned out to be quite a success. Today we have a very, very interesting group. We have Stork, Hwasun, Free, and Iris, also known as the Berserker Terran. And our first match of the day is going to be Stork versus Iris. I think it's going to be a really exciting match. Both players very, very good. Stork actually ranked second in the KESPA ratings right now. He was number one, so he is definitely one of the favorites for the event itself. And I can't wait to see how the game will unfold. Stork's overall stats right now are, versus Terran, he's got a 63.8% win ratio with a record of 51-29. Looking over at Iris's stats, I could see that versus Protoss, he has a 57.1% win ratio with a 32-24 win record. So both players over the 50% mark, like most of the pros are that are at this level at least. You won't too often see somebody who's below 50% in any of their matchups because this is the GOM TV StarCraft Invitational. These are the 16 best players in the world. And with that being said, all of them are very, very good, very, very talented. The matchup listing for the rest of the day today, obviously the first game is Stork versus Iris on Blue Storm. Next game on Katrina is going to be Hwasun versus Iris. Game 3 on Blue Storm, Hwasun versus Free. Game 4 on Katrina, Stork versus Free. Game 5 on Bekmagoji, Stork versus Hwasun. Game 6 on Bekmagoji is Iris versus Free. So all these games are going to be great. Only 2 can make it out of the group. So this is the first game of the tournament. It's one that's really, really important for both of these players. They want to get off on a good foot, but only one of them will be able to do that. And I think I'm on TV right now. It's been a lot of fun to be down here at this event. It's gone really well so far, and I have to say it's a real pleasure to be casting for all of you now. I know a lot of people have been asking if we can get another co-commentator with me, and the answer is yes. We're looking into it. Not likely to have one for this event necessarily, but in the future, yeah, we're definitely going to look into that. We're getting a shot of Stork right now. Both him and Iris have been in their booths for quite a while, so I think at some point in time, the game's going to start pretty soon here. Again, as we can see, he's second in his KESPA ratings. That's quite impressive, and you know, if he can do well in this tournament, he could get bumped back up to 1. Bisu is number 1, another Protoss player. It's interesting to finally see these Protoss players at the very, very top of the KESPA ratings. For a long time, it was dominated by Terrans and even the occasional Zergs. So, as we can see, StarCraft is a game that's constantly evolving, constantly changing. Here we're getting a shot of Iris. Also been waiting in the booth for quite some time. The two players were talking to each other in the chat within the game server. As we can see, he's ranked 12th in the KESPA ratings. That's quite good. And he could raise that rating if he wins a few other games. And here's a great opportunity to do that. A member of the CJ Entis team, and arguably one of their best players. He's really done a good job of helping play an excellent role model for his teammates. I was talking to the CJ coach earlier, and he's really pleased with how Iris is doing. And I think we're only seconds away from this game beginning. Now we're getting a shot of both the players head-to-head. Stork versus Iris. Iris, the Berserker Terran. Stork, the winner of the World Cyber Games, World Finals, gold medalist in StarCraft. Very impressive feat. And since his success there, he has just continued to maintain his dominance in the StarCraft world. Just stepping one rung down on the ladder to the rank 2. And I think that it's going to be a great game. The game has begun. Here we see Stork at the bottom left. And that makes Iris at the top right. Stork, the green Terran. Iris, the blue. Excuse me, Stork, the green Protoss, and Iris, the blue Terran. Now, one thing right off the bat that we want to look for is whether or not Stork is going to go for the gas steal. It's pretty common for Protoss players to go for a gas steal early on. Terran are entirely dependent on getting gas so that they can get the factory out, so that they can get the tanks and the vultures. Marines and medics are useless against Protoss because Dragoon range is so strong, as well as Psionic Storm, Dark Templar, Reavers, and pretty much everything else Protoss owns. The way that Protoss deals damage, medics are basically useless. So stealing the Terran's gas is generally a good idea. And since the probe has been sent out so early, I believe that's going to happen. I've seen many, many games on this map where Protoss do this, because you don't have to scout your opponent. You just know automatically where they are, so you can send them right away to the starting location. With that being said, you're not going to be at risk of losing or sending that probe out too soon when you could have mined minerals. Here comes the probe now, snuck in through the side. He's going to try to come in at an angle where the Terran will see it at the last second, coming in from the back, and if he gets this, it will be very bad for Iris, and he did. Now, Iris is well aware that Iris is well aware that this is probably going to happen. He's seen this happen before, and I think he's already got a build mapped out for what he's going to do. It looks like he may be going for a proxy barracks, or at least we see some type of SCV on the mini-map moving out. Stork has not yet taken his own Vespian Gas Geyser, but he'll have to do that rather soon. He's doing some probe harassment, might be able to get this one SCV, and yes, he did. That's a small blow for Iris early on. He's already lost his gas. Well, at least he's gotten his gas stolen. And not to mention, on top of that, he just lost an SCV. So Iris is in a bit of a disadvantage right now. Stork getting the second pylon before getting the Vespian Gas Geyser. You can get more probes out if you go in that fashion. If you get the Vespian Gas Geyser and steal their gas and don't get the second pylon first, you are a little bit of a risk of getting behind in probes, which doesn't matter too much unless the Terran rushes you. Now that the Gas Geyser is finished, the assimilator on top of the Gas Geyser, Iris will proceed to attack it. An engineering bay planted out here. It looks as though Stork's plan was to fast Expo, and planting the engineering bay there slows that whole process down. Engineering bay is a very cheap building, but has a lot of HP. And because of that, it looks like Stork's attempts to fast Expo, or possibly fast Expo, have been foiled. And because of that, he's had to go take the Vespian Gas Geyser, deviating his build. Iris predicted that Stork would want a fast Nexus. Whether he did or not, well, it looks like he did since he sent the probe out. Bear in mind, Stork's probe is still inside of Iris's base. He's hidden that well, which is not good for Iris. That means he'll get some idea of what his opponent's doing. And intelligence is everything in a game of StarCraft. Scouting probe will be taken out here very soon. Although he's doing a good job of microing it around his opponent's base, but did lose it just there. Because of that scouting probe, he will have a better idea of exactly when Iris is going to get his factories, how many Marines he's going to be getting, and he did get a lot of them. Moving on into the game, we see that the Nexus is still building. Dragoon range will probably be upgraded very soon for the Protoss. Terran factory being produced. Because he stole his gas like that, it did force Terran to make a few extra Marines. On a map like Blue Storm, you don't have any kind of easy choke point to block people off from. Terran peeking outside of his base with those Marines. He is going to get an idea of if anything else is out there. A lot of times you want to try to kill the spotter worker that might be outside of your opponent's base. That way they have less of an idea of when you're leaving. Scouting SCV being chased by Stork right now. Probe taken out. Because Stork's expoed, Iris has opted to expo as well. Command center being planted there. Rather than putting the command center in the back of Iris's base, he puts it at the expansion so that he can expand that much faster. However, since the Protoss managed to spot that, he will know exactly what his opponent's doing. Again, Dragoons moving around the outside of Stork's base, checking for any hidden spotter workers or hidden buildings, anything. SCVs have now been transferred. He'll proceed to make several more factories and then open up with some type of timing push. Generally on Blue Storm, if the game goes over 15 minutes, the Protoss ends up having to get carriers. This map isn't quite as imbalanced with the carriers as Katrina is, for instance. But it is still very strong for carriers. If he can use these zealots, he can take out each of these mines. It takes 3 hits from a mine to kill a zealot, so zealots are great for chewing up mines. Terran upgrading something, presumably siege mode, but that upgrade is going to have to finish pretty soon. Vulture Bike will take out that probe, but Stork is slowly closing in on his Terran foe. And if siege mode doesn't finish in time, Stork could do a lot of damage. I see the Vulture Bike is snuck inside of Iris's base. And with that being said, unfortunately he did not really utilize that Vulture Bike. Dragoons in range of the bunker, going to be able to take that out. Siege mode is still not done yet. Although he doesn't even seem to have a tank yet. Now here he goes, sending the Zealot in there. One more Zealot is going to be able to take out several of those mines. Oh! And he did manage to lose one Dragoon here. Vulture Bike's now going to dash in. He actually upgraded Vulture's speed. But this could be very bad for Iris. Iris is known as the Berserker Terran. He's very accomplished at being aggressive. Dragoon rushes in here and blows up all of those Marines. Stork could possibly dash in and do more damage, but instead he decides that it's safer to pull out since Iris has lost so many Vulture Bikes, making that Vulture Bike speed upgrade somewhat useless. Yes, Iris is known as a very, very aggressive player. Occasionally that works against him. Sometimes he gets overly aggressive and then loses the advantage that he actually had gained. Stork known as a very clever player, a player who can open up with all these different builds and really get ahead. In fact, I would say the build orders are what I identify with Stork the most. Excellent at Protoss versus Terran, excellent at Protoss versus Protoss. Not so strong in Protoss versus Zerg, but still, if you're second ranked in Kespa, they're going to be pretty damn good. 3 add-ons. That means that there's a higher likelihood that we'll be seeing a lot of tanks from the Terran. Generally, Terran won't be getting the add-on unless they're absolutely sure they want to make the tanks. Otherwise, it's a complete waste. Iris has replenished the Vulture Bikes, moving around the map now, planting mines, attempting to gain some type of map control. And another command center goes up. With tanks coming out of all those, it'll be very, very easy to defend that. Unless, of course, Stork spots it in time. Probe going to try to hide from these Vulture Bikes, but spotted. They have been from Iris. Pylon wall in the back here. One thing that good Protoss players tend to do is they put walls of pylons in certain locations in the map to cut off Vulture Bike circulation. Iris attempting to sneak up this way, but Stork is ready with Dragoons and Observers, chases him back down. I have not yet seen an armory yet for the Terran, which is another indicator that he's probably going to go for the timing push. If they get the armory, it's normally a sign they're going to be turtling a little bit more. Stork making a heavy amount of gateways, now moving out with the Dragoons. Did take some damage from that mine. More Vulture Bikes going to try to go around from the back. Iris positions those mines in such a way so that once he sees Stork begin to push out, he knows he can sneak around to the back with the Vulture Bikes and possibly do some damage to the probes. Stork, however, seems prepared for this. Here are some of Iris's tanks, and Stork slowly trying to push up here. Tanks in the way to take most of the damage. Excuse me, mines in the way to take most of the damage. An unwise move by Stork. The innumerable amount of Vulture mines really made it difficult for Stork to get in there and do the damage to the tanks, which are the ones that are really dealing all the damage. And here comes the rest of Stork's army. He's going to once again try to chase his opponent back up up this ridge. He may be too close to being on top of those mines. And here Stork comes now. Zealot Legs is just now finished. But Siege Mode done just in time. 2 Goliaths there, just in case his opponent has a shuttle. And there's the armory there. +1 attack done for the tanks. I didn't get a shot of that armory earlier. If I did, I didn't notice it, but that's going to really, really help out the Terran in this case. Terran's going to be a little bit more defensive early on, but he's got to be very careful because an expansion like this is very difficult to defend. The shuttles have come in now, but the Goliaths did not target fire it. Miss micro by Iris, and now Stork's units will attempt to overcome the army of Iris, but there are so many siege tanks, it looks like he might not be able to do that. Iris drove Stork back. More and more gateways being produced. Stork has not opted to go carriers yet. This is rather interesting, perhaps because his opponent went for the fast armory. Iris perhaps assuming the carriers would be the opening and going and picking such an opening for that exact reason. Iris backing up a little bit, now using that Goliath a little bit more effectively and targeting the tanks, and Iris expands yet again. The positioning of this tank will make it very difficult for Stork to mine from that location. He will have to do something soon because he's going to need to mine from these that expansion. Here he comes with a shuttle now. Going to try to do a Zealot bomb. And I don't think he's going to be able to get it, though. Notice that Iris is very carefully positioned his siege tanks so that they're far away enough that they're not going to be able to shoot down his own tank if he attempts to do a Zealot bomb. Using the Dark Templar, attempting to eat some mines. Iris scans. It doesn't matter anyways because of all those Dark Templar. Zealot bomb manages to work. Tanks are now in range of that. He has managed to push back the tank that was choking the life away from that expansion, making it impossible for probes to mine there. But Iris has already expanded at the bottom right. More and more gateways. I see a Templar Archives. I have not seen a starport yet. I assume he's getting stormed, perhaps to put in a shuttle. Here comes Stork now. Moving down the ramp, but has to back up. The positioning of Iris's units is too good. The mines that have been laying are too many. And this expansion continues to suffer. Another expo at the north. That's more on Iris's turf as well. But it looks like that's what he's going to have to do. He's going to have to take that expansion, because otherwise there's no way that he can come back and get ahead. Iris's miss micro early on has really costed him. Excuse me, Stork's miss micro early on has really costed him, and now here comes another big battle. But because Stork had lost so many Dragoons, it's going to be very, very difficult. Oh boy, it's going to be very difficult for Stork to recover from this. He's been behind all along, and now with that expansion in bad position, and Iris slowly moving in for the kill, attempting to take out the far left expansion. He is moving in now. Here come the Dragoons and the Zealots. But no, there's no way that Stork is going to be able to hold that off. And Iris is kicking some serious ass this game. A shuttle going to pick up some Templar. If he can get a good storm drop, especially if the tanks are very, very close together, he could possibly hold this off. But it's going to be very, very difficult, undoubtedly. Here he comes now. Templar's dropping. He's got to get a good storm off here. There's one storm. If he can get a few more. But I don't think it's enough. It just doesn't matter. Stork really couldn't do that much after he lost all these Dragoons. Oh, tried to drop one more Templar, but the tank's unsieged in time. Picking off that Templar before the storm could happen. He's now making Dark Templar, hoping the Terran won't be scanning, but Iris is ready for everything. Another scan goes down. And wow. It looks like Stork will not be getting his revenge from his losses from Iris previously in the LSL. Another Nexus goes down. Terran has one more expansion that he needs to take out before I would predict Iris leaves this game. Terran has way too many units. There's just nothing that Protoss can do at this point in time. It's just not good. Now that he's lost that expansion, Terran has a high ground advantage in this battle. Stork probably should have gone for carriers. Good game. It's over. Wow. Iris takes down Stork. Stork does not look too happy about that. And a very, very surprising game in this tournament. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We got many more games to come today. This is Group C. Stay tuned at the GOM TV StarCraft Invitational.